going thing.
Hello friends, this is Daily English Classroom, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. In today's class, we are learning the textual questions of the lesson vanka, and the first question is: on the basis of your reading of the first two paragraphs of the story, complete the following table. Here, you are asked to write the following details of the story. The protagonist of the story, protagonist means the main character, place where the story is taking place, and the time, and about his family, the family of the main character, his mental state, and his actions. We know the protagonist of the story is Vanka Chekhov, and the story takes place in shoemaker Alyakin's house where Vanka is apprenticed. And the time is the Christmas time, the Christmas Eve, and the family members of Vanka are his grandfather Konstantin Makarich, and his parents are dead. He has no other relatives. And what was his mental state? He was very sad or depressed and miserable. What are his actions? He writes a letter to his granddad telling him about his misery, puts it in an envelope with incomplete address, goes out and posts the letter in the letterbox. So this is a summary of the whole story. Question number 2 is: what were the specialities of the dog Eel? We know that the grandfather has got two dogs, Eel and Kastanka, and this one is to write about the specialities of the dog Eel. Eel had black coat and long weasel-like body, and he got that name because of its shape. And he was respectful and always tried to get people's affection. He looked at friends and strangers in the same way or the same manner. He did not give confidence to anyone. But we know that this is not the actual nature of this dog. He is quite otherwise. He's inside his mind. He is just the opposite of what he is showing outside. His respect and obedient nature hid, actually, his real nature is hidden. His hatred and vengeance. He could go quietly and bite somebody's foot, creep into the ice house and steal a peasant's chicken. His back legs had been cut many times. Twice he had been hung up, and every week he was beaten up very badly, but he survived all. We know that this dog is not actually what it appears to be. It's just opposite of what it is showing. It shows very docile and obedient and very friendly with people, but sometimes he shows his real nature by stealing chickens and creeping into the ice house, etc. And many times he got punishment from his master, and he didn't mind or any of those things, and he continued to be like this. There is no change in his nature. Question number 3 is there a shift in the setting of the story in paragraph 3 and 4? Where do the events take place? So we know that after the second paragraph, there is a change in the location where the story is taking place. What is that location? Of course, we can see that there is a shift or change in the setting after the second paragraph. In paragraph 3 and 4 and 5, Vanka is recollecting his memory. So that one is taking place in his village, or where his grandfather Konstantin Makarich was working as a night watchman. Question number 4 is: how does grandfather create an atmosphere of fun and laughter? What idea about the character do you get from that paragraph? The grandfather creates an atmosphere of fun and laughter by playfully pinching one of the maids or cook and making them take snuff. He also gave snuff to the dogs. The women would sneeze and then the grandfather would say, "Good for frozen noses." So we know that this grandfather is very playful and he sleeps in the back kitchen, and sometimes he pinches the maids and also offers his snuff box to everyone in the house, including the maids, cook, and even to the dogs. And when they are sneezing, he would laugh at them and say that it is very good for frozen or cold noses. Question number 5 is to pick out words and phrases used to describe the night. So, just before the grandfather starts his duty, there is a very clear description of the night. Which are the words used there to describe the night? This is the description that we get about the night. It is a dark night, trees were silver with rime or ice, and sky sprinkled and gaily twinkling stars. The Milky Way looked newly scrubbed and polished with the snow. Question number 6 is, what sort of life did Vanka lead at the shoemaker's place? How was his life at Alyakin's house? And we know that his life at the house of Alyakin was not very happy. He led a very miserable life there. He did not get enough food to eat. He had to rock the shoemaker's baby in the night, and this prevented him from getting enough sleep. He was badly beaten by Alyakin. Senior boys ridiculed him, and he has led such a bad life there at the house of Alyakin. The master and the mistress, they mistreated him, and so was the apprentices, the senior apprentices in the house. Alyakin beat him with the first thing that he gets in his hand, and the mistress sometimes also punishes him, and the senior apprentices send him with some difficult works, and his life was worse than that of a dog. Question number 7. What, according to Vanka, would happen to him if his grandfather did not take him back home? Why did he think so? What would happen if the grandfather didn't come there to take him back to the village? And what is the reason why he thinks like that? Here we can see the life of the boy is really in danger because the master is very cruel. He didn't give any consideration to the boy. If his grandfather did not take him back home, he would die. He thought so because it was impossible for him to continue with his cruel master, Alyakin, who made him work hard, starved him, didn't give him enough food, made him rock his baby in the night, and beat him up cruelly. Question number 8 is, why could not Vanka run away from the home? Many times he thought of running away from this Alyakin's house, but he could not go. What is the reason? Vanka could not just run away from Alyakin's house because he had no shoes or boots, and he was afraid of the frost. Question number 9. Vanka is working for a shoemaker, but he doesn't have boots. What do you understand from this? Even though he is working as an apprentice to Alyakin the shoemaker, he doesn't have a shoe. What do you understand from this? From this we can understand that Alyakin hasn't even given him the basic things he needed to survive in that climate. That means although he works with a shoemaker, he can have shoes of his own. This is the case with many workers. They didn't give enough food or the things they needed. Question number 10. What promises does Vanka make to his grandfather so that he would take him back home? So Vanka says that he is ready to do so many things if he comes there and takes him back to his old village. What were those promises that Vanka made to his grandfather? These are the promises that Vanka makes to his grandfather. He makes a lot of promises to his grandfather so that he would take him back home. Number 1, he is ready to grind his snuff. He would grind his snuff. He would pray for him. He could even beat him as hard as he liked if he did mischief, and he can punish him whatever he likes if he makes any mistakes. He would clean the boots or go as a shepherd instead of Fidya. When he grows up to be a man, he would look after him and he will not let anyone hurt him. When he dies, he would pray for his soul like he does for his mother. So when he grows up to a man, he is ready to protect him and pray for him after his death. Question number 11 is what beautiful memories of Christmas do Vanka cherish? What are the beautiful moments that he recollects when he's there in Alyakin's house? Vanka recollects his good old days when he was staying at the house of Olga Ignatievna with his grandfather and mother. Vanka remembers his grandfather going to get a Christmas tree for his employers. He had taken Vanka with him. How happy Vanka was then. Grandfather would laugh, the frost-covered trees would laugh, and Vanka also laughed. Before cutting the tree, the grandfather would smoke his pipes, so take a long pinch of snuff. He would laugh at the shivering Vanka. The young fir trees covered with frost stood without moving. They were waiting to see which one would be cut. Suddenly a hare would appear. Grandfather would shout, stop it, you snub-tailed devil." Grandfather would drag the tree to the big house. These are the great memories which are still there in the mind of Vanka. Those were his best time when he was staying there in the house of Olga Ignatievna. Question number 12. Who was Vanka's favorite and why did he like her? Vanka's favorite was Miss Olga Ignatievna, a kind lady. And she was Vanka's favorite and she used to give Vanka sweets. And more importantly, she also taught him how to read, write and count up to 100 and to dance. Question number 13. How did Vanka reach Moscow? Life became very miserable for Vanka soon after the death of his mother Pelageya. Then he was sent to the care of his grandfather, and grandfather took him to Alyakin, the shoemaker in Moscow. When he became an orphan after the death of his mother Pelageya, he was sent to his grandfather. His grandfather apprenticed him to the shoemaker Alyakin in Moscow. Number 14. I have such a miserable life, worse than a dog's life. What made Vanka say so? Why did he say that his life is even worse than that of a dog? Vanka said so for so many reasons. There are more than one reasons. He did not get enough to eat. They don't give him enough food, and the good food is eaten by the senior apprentices. He could not sleep properly as he had to rock Alyakin's baby in the night. He was laughed at by the senior apprentices, and above all, he was often beaten by Alyakin. He was suffering from lack of sleep, and also he didn't get enough food, and he was punished by everyone in the house, including Alyakin, his wife, and the senior apprentices. And because of these reasons, he feels that his life is worse than that of a dog. Question number 15. Do you think Vanka's letter will reach his grandfather? And why? This letter will not reach the grandfather because he didn't write the full address or he didn't paste any stamp on it, and he just wrote grandfather in the village, and then he just added Konstantin Makrich, but that's not a full address of that person. So we can say that it won't reach his grandfather. Question number 16. What did Vanka dream about in his sleep? Soon after posting the letter, he came back home and slept. In his sleep, he had a dream. He dreamed of a stove, his grandfather sitting on the side of the stove with his bare feet dangling. He was reading the letter to his cooks. Eel was walking backwards and forwards, wagging his tail. This is the dream that he saw about his grandfather receiving the letter and reading it out to the cooks and feeling very sad about that, and deciding to come here the next day to take him back home. And the last question is, does the reference to eel have any significance in the story and how? Yes, we can see that Eel is an interesting character in the story in spite of his reverential or friendly manner and docility. He had a spite and malice in his heart. So are many people around us. We can find many people who just pretended to be very gentle and helping others, but in fact they are actually exploiting the people. And so this character tells us about such people.